Buddhism comes to us Europeans and Americans through many sects and sects, making a newcomer feel very confused and waste a lot of time learning meaningless details. For a long time, I have limited my understanding to the general aspect of Buddhism, and only delved into a few special sections. Therefore, because my understanding is very general, I hope that what is presented here may be of some help to those who are just starting to learn about Buddhism. We can imagine Buddhism as a huge tree, with luxuriant branches and leaves. There is a big tree trunk, with main branches, then small branches, and finally leaves on those small branches. Below the ground is a tree root system. Like the above-ground part, this root system is divided into many rootlets. Now, let's imagine a huge tree trunk rising from the ground, and supporting and nourishing the branches and leaves. This tree trunk symbolizes the action of Buddhists looking for refuge and refuge. This is a common action for all Buddhists, and is the most important aspect of all Buddhist research and practice. Any theory, sect and practice of Buddhism is considered to originate from that important action, which every Buddha must recite regularly, which is taking refuge. In Pali, that action is called saranagamana, taking refuge. Gamana means to go to find. Sarana means refuge, help, nourishment. Guidance. Taking refuge in a place means going there to ask for help, guidance, and nourishment. Usually, that is what we do when we encounter some crisis in life, when we encounter a difficult reality that we cannot cope with on our own. Therefore, we go somewhere to ask for help. What makes a religious person a Buddhist is not simply finding refuge. Usually, most of us seek refuge in something else, such as relying on friends, alcohol, career, drugs, entertainment, family, experts, sports, analysts, travel, etc. What makes a person a true Buddhist is that he or she takes refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, called taking refuge in the three jewels. Thus, the three taproots that nourish the trunk of the tree are Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Each of these nouns has many different meanings. Therefore, we can imagine that from those three taproots many other roots sprout. However, within the limited scope of this article, we will only briefly mention these three taproots. The central root is Dharma. This noun has many meanings. In the Buddhist context, the most important meaning of Dharma is nirvana, the ultimate goal of all Buddhists. Nirvana is the destruction of all seeds that lead to suffering and dissatisfaction. All Buddhists strive on that path to end suffering. That is the main meaning of Dharma. But the word Dharma also means the means, the way to help us reach the ultimate goal, nirvana. What helps us achieve that goal is a positive and good attitude, which gives rise to the word virtue. Thus, the second meaning of Dharma is virtue, which is related to the good nature of each person. Dharma is also what helps us develop morality. From there, the third meaning of Dharma is teachings. Any teachings that help us reach nirvana can be considered Dharma, but usually, Buddhists take refuge in the teachings recorded in the sutras, collections of the Buddha's teachings, and in the Vinaya, the Buddha's teachings. Set of precepts laid down for monks who leave family life to devote all their time and energy to practicing the Dharma. The other two taproot branches are Buddha and Sangha. There are many different views about the meaning of the title Buddha. Everyone agrees that throughout history there have been many Buddhas, and the Buddha of the most recent era is Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the sage Muni. Muni, Sakya family. The Shakyamuni tribe is probably a minority tribe, with a different racial and cultural origin than the Aryan race. The main race living in the area. Therefore, when Siddhartha Gautama came to the cities of Benares and the Ganges Valley, perhaps his appearance and way of speaking seemed a bit strange to the people in the region. It is also possible that they did not take him seriously because they thought he was from a minority and uncivilized ethnic group. Even though he had a strange origin and was subject to such prejudices, after a period of preaching the Dharma, he influenced many people, including people with important positions such as kings and generals, consuls, wealthy merchants, and wise scholars of that time. All of these people submitted to him, and saw him as a guiding teacher. Therefore, When we take refuge in the Buddha, we respect him as the most noble teacher of gods and humans, the most perfect person. In other words, he is a true model for all Buddhists to follow. The noun, sangha, means a group, a community, an assembly. The sangha that all Buddhists look up to is the Arya Sangha, for noble sangha, a group of noble saints who have developed wisdom and morality. Pure virtue, having attained nirvana or on the way to nirvana, is often called the holy fruits. What needs to be known here is that members of the Ailda Sangha are not just monks, nor are all monks members of the Ailda Sangha. On an absolute level, when a Buddhist takes refuge in the Three Jewels, he or she does not take refuge in a group of monks or a group of other Buddhists. Rather, that person takes refuge in a group of highly intelligent people, with pure wisdom and virtue, at a higher level, far superior to ordinary people. However, the word sangha is often used to refer to other communities, such as the monastic community, Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha, the lay community of monks, the community of lay people who heard the Buddha preach the Dharma and came to seek refuge with him, Sravaka Sangha. There are some Buddhists who believe that perhaps the entire Buddhist community should be viewed as a sangha, as a symbol of the ideal of Ailutta Sangha to which they adhere. However, in countries with a long Buddhist tradition, the sangha is often seen as a community of monks. These three main roots are to nourish the trunk of the tree, and from an act of taking refuge in the Three Jewels, create the conditions for the establishment of Buddhism as an organized religion. There are many different ways to take refuge. Ultimately, we can say that there are many different ways of taking refuge, because there are countless different individuals, because in the history of Buddhism, taking refuge is ultimately an individual decision, and each person must find your own way to practice in your own life. We can consider each Buddhist as a leaf attached to the ancient tree of Buddhism. Leaves live on branches, branches are attached to secondary branches originate from large branches that grow from the main trunk. From there, let's look at the main tree branches. The main branches of the tree can be seen as based on the sutras containing the teachings of the Buddha and his great disciples. One main branch is called the Savaka branch. The monks in this branch practice according to the teachings, which everyone believes are the Buddha's public teachings to monks and lay disciples. In the past, there were many branches sprouting from this Tanvan branch, but today only one branch remains. That branch is called Theravada, meaning the preaching of the elders. An elder, or a monk, is a monk who has been ordained for at least 10 years and has clear insight. The Theravada sect is based on the practices passed down through many generations of these elders. The Buddha's teachings were written down in a collection of scriptures in Pali. Although Theravada monks study other types of scriptures, the basic foundation of their teaching and practice is based on the Pali scriptures. Theravada sect, often called Theravada Buddhism, or Theravada Buddhism, is present today in Sri Lanka, Burma, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam. The second main branch divides and splits into many sub-branches. All of these sub-branches have a common feature: they accept the value of other types of scriptures that the Shravaka branch does not accept because they believe that they are not the teachings of the historical Buddha. This branch is called the Mahayana branch, Mahayana, Northern Buddhism. The number of Mahayana sutras is very large and no one can study them all in one lifetime, and therefore, Mahayana Buddhists often only specialize in a few sutras, or just one sutra. For example, Zen Buddhism is often understood to rely solely on the transmission of the Lankavatara Sutra, original title, Langjia Abattala, meaning the transmission of the true Dharma to the island of Lankavatara, Ceylon, a country that had both Theravada and Mahayana branches at that time. Pure Land sects rely on scriptures to describe the levels of pure bliss so that we can be reborn there and continue practicing Buddha Dharma more easily than in this difficult world. There are many other small branches, such as the Lotus branch, based on the Wonderful Dharma Lotus Sutra, a scripture intended to unify sects, including the Nichiren Group and the Bright Learning Association, Saka. Gakkai is currently active in Japan, the United States, and elsewhere. Usually, these small branches are intertwined, influencing each other, making it difficult to distinguish, Mahayana Buddhism once developed widely in China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam and Indonesia, but today there have been many changes. Indonesia is now a Muslim country. Buddhism has died out in mainland China. The majority of North Koreans follow Christianity, with only 1/3 following Buddhism. Buddhism is on the decline in Japan and is being replaced by hundreds of new religious groups, sometimes only superficially Buddhist. Buddhism in Vietnam has also been weakened by wars in the past and current political and economic pressures, although Vietnam is a place where there have been good efforts to combine the two branches of Mahayana and Theravada. It can be said that there are risks that Mahayana Buddhism may decline in Asia in the next 25 years. The sad thing is that this tree branch, once very healthy and lush, is now rotten and in danger of breaking due to its weight. The third main branch is the diamond branch, Vajra. Actually, to be precise, it can be said that this branch grows from the Mahayana branch. But because it has its own characteristics, it can be considered a main branch. The scriptures of this branch are based on secret mantras, so it is also called Tantric Buddhism. These are types of scriptures written in a special language, unclear to those who have not received the lineage, called secret meanings. We cannot study or practice without a teacher to guide us, and teachers have special transmission ceremonies for disciples who have certain spiritual powers to practice. Tantra is the main sect in Tibet and Mongolia, transmitted from Tibet. There were also other forms of Tantra in China, and from there they spread to Vietnam, Korea, and Japan. Even other Buddhist sects are more or less influenced by Tantra, in theory as well as in practice. For example, in Vietnam today, we often see a very good, very special harmony of Southern Buddhism, many branches of Northern Buddhism, Pure Land and Zen, and Tantric Buddhism. Korean Buddhism is now also a synthesis of Zen, purity and some traces of Tantra. At this point, I have finished presenting the roots, main trunk and main branches of the ancient Buddhist tree. Now let's see how this whole tree is structured. It is composed of two main parts, the wood pulp and the sap. The wood, which is the essence of Buddhism, is wisdom. The sap, which helps the tree continue to exist by transmitting nutrients from the roots to other parts and to the branches and leaves, is compassion. Without the compassion, sap flowing throughout, the entire tree will die quickly. Without the wisdom, wood, the sap does not transmit and will evaporate quickly. Thus, no part is more important than the other. Both parts work together to maintain the life of the ancient Buddhist tree.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel Journey to Enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.